In question 111 of the Summa Theologica Prima Pars, we talk about the action of the angels on man, which is very interesting because angels, of course, are incorporeal creatures. They don't have bodies. We are a composite of body and spirit, matter and form. And so the angels, we know, are of higher intellect than us. And so what exactly are they able to do? What authority does God give them to act upon us? And so there's 4 articles in this question, and I find them quite interesting. In fact, we'll start off with article number 1 saying whether an angel can enlighten man. Now, we've already talked about angels enlightening each other, where the higher angels can enlighten the lower ones cannot enlighten the higher ones. Nobody, of course, can enlighten God. So everything kind of comes from top down. Well, the angels are above us in intellect, and so it would make sense that they would be able to enlighten us. But what exactly does that mean? Thomas says, since the order of divine providence disposes that lower things be subject to the higher, as the inferior angels are enlightened by the superior, so men who are inferior to the angels are enlightened by them. Okay, that's what I just explained. The modes of each of these kinds of enlightenment are in one way alike and in another way unlike. For as was shown above, the enlightenment which consists in making known divine truth has 2 functions, namely, according as the inferior intellect is strengthened by the action of the superior intellect. That means the intellect is actually strengthened in order to better understand things that it has the potential to understand. And according as the intelligible species which are in the superior intellect are proposed to the inferior so as to be grasped thereby. So if the higher angel is able to propose some information or something that it knows to a lower angel, then that angel might be able to understand that, but always within the confines of its particular nature. This takes place in the angels when the superior angel divides his universal concept of the truth according to the capacity of the inferior angel. Notice he said he divides it because, remember, God knows everything through his essence, just in one, now. And then the higher angels understand, I guess for lack of explanation, a larger capacity of species that encompass more things. So if they pass that information down, they've got to break it down into smaller bits in order for the lower angels to be able to understand it. The human intellect, Thomas says, however, cannot grasp the universal truth itself unveiled because its nature requires it to understand by turning to the phantasms, as was above explained, right? So the angels propose the intellectual truth to men under the similitudes of sensible things, according to what Dionysius says, that it is impossible for the divine ray to shine in us otherwise than shrouded by a variety of sacred veils. On the other hand, the human intellect, as the inferior, is strengthened by the action of the angelic intellect, and in these 2 ways, man is enlightened by an angel. So we are able to be strengthened in our intellect by the angels, and then also things can be proposed to us, but in accord with our nature, and we come to know everything intellectually through the sensible. So that's the way that the angels would enlighten us. Whether angels can change the will of man. Okay, this picture is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but shows an angel, trying to influence a man for good or for bad, I don't know which way, while he's praying. So clearly he's apparently trying to will something good. Okay, the will can be changed in 2 ways. First, from within, in which way, since the movement of the will is nothing but the inclination of the will to the thing willed, God alone can change the will interiorly because he gives the power of such an inclination to the intellectual nature. Okay, so God gives us our wills, he gives us our intellect, and the will is a appetite for the universal good, which is God himself, right? Remember, we learned all that. For as the natural inclination is from God alone who gives the nature, so the inclination of the will is from God alone who causes the will. Okay, that makes sense. Secondly, the will is moved from without. As regards an angel, this can be only in one way, by the good apprehended by the intellect. Hence, in as far as anyone may be the cause why anything be apprehended as an applicable good, so far does he move the will. Okay, so the appetible good, I guess to whatever degree it can be altered or changed or modified, that I guess can change the will accordingly. In this way, also God alone can move the will efficaciously, but an angel and a man move the will by way of persuasion. In addition to this mode, the human will can be moved from without in another way, namely by the passion residing in the sensitive appetite. Thus, by concupiscence or anger, the will is inclined to will something. In this manner, the angels, as being able to rouse these passions, can move the will, not however by necessity, for the will ever remains free to consent to or resist the passion. Okay, so it's an interesting balance where the angels have some authority to alter our passions or perhaps propose something that's going to get us riled up or, sin through lust. But ultimately, in the end, we have free will and they aren't able to move it entirely. And of course, as we mentioned, interiorly, only God can move the will. Whether an angel can change man's imagination. Okay, this is very interesting. Both a good and a bad angel, by their own natural power, can move the human imagination. This may be explained as follows. Corporeal nature obeys the angel as regards local movement, okay, which has already been explained, so that whatever can be caused by the local movement of bodies is subject to the natural power of the angels. Now, he's going to get into an explanation here that I got to admit I don't quite understand. He's going to talk about two things, animal spirits and humors. I did some searching, I did some digging, trying to figure out what exactly does he mean by animal spirits and humors. I got a lot of different answers, and so I'm just going to read it as it is. It sounds like it might be old science. If you're watching this and you want to disagree, then by all means, please educate me. But that's what it sounds like. It says, now it is manifest that imaginative apparitions are sometimes caused in us by the local movement of animal spirits and humors. Okay. Hence Aristotle says, when assigning the cause of visions in dreams, that when an animal sleeps, the blood descends in abundance to the sensitive principles and movements descend with it. That is, the impressions left from the movements are preserved in the animal spirits and move the sensitive principles so that a certain appearance ensues as if the sensitive principle were being then changed by the external objects themselves. Okay, again, don't quite understand this. Sounds like he was maybe using some old science. Indeed, the commotion of the spirits and humors may be so great that such appearances may even occur to those who are awake, as is seen in mad people and the like. So, as this happens by a natural disturbance of the humors, and sometimes also by the will of man who voluntarily imagines what he had previously experienced, so also the same may be done by the power of a good or a bad angel, sometimes with alienation from the bodily senses, sometimes without such alienation. Okay, that was confusing, but I think that the takeaway from this is St. Thomas Aquinas thinks that angels, good and bad, can move and change our imagination. Okay, so when you imagine something, and maybe it just seems a little sinister or you're not quite sure where it came from, I think that is a sign that it might be from a bad angel, right? All right, Article 4, whether an angel can change the human senses. The senses may be changed in a twofold manner, from without, as when affected by the sensible object, and from within, for we see that the senses are changed when the spirits and humors, there's our spirits and humors again, are disturbed, as for example, a sick man's tongue charged with choleric humor tastes everything as being bitter, and the like with the other senses. Now an angel, by his natural power, can work a change in the senses both ways. For an angel can offer the senses a sensible object from without, formed by nature or by the angel himself, as when he assumes a body, as we have seen and said above. Likewise, he can move the spirits and humors from within, as above remarked, whereby the senses are changed in various ways. So it sounds like the sensitive things that we apprehend through our sight and hearing and taste and touch and smell can be manufactured, can be altered by the angels. And so then we would have a little bit of a manipulation of our senses by the angels. At least that's how I'm taking this, okay? If you have any better explanations of this, please comment and let me know what's on your mind. That brings us to an end to question 111 of the Summa Theologia, the action of the angels on man. St. Thomas Aquinas, please pray for us. Thanks for watching. God bless you.